Hello, and welcome back, Colin. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's October now.
It is October. It's my favorite month of the year.
That's right. I forgot about that.
So it's a great time. However, Colin, we're doing this week's episode of Colin and Curtis in the morning. Episode
Yes.
number. I'm not sure what number it is. To be completely honest,
84. I don't know.
probably some. It might be somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
It's been a odd week. Specifically for a little known company called Sony. It's been an interesting news week for PlayStation. Ups and downs, I guess, or I don't even know if we call them downs just yet. I'm not really sure what to make of it.
Yeah.
This podcast is mostly going to be focused on just a few things. I think originally we were going to do a state of play episode over the weekend, pushed back a couple of days, and I guess it's a good thing we did. So
It's true.
we're just gonna get into it. So we're actually gonna go backwards. We're gonna start with this morning, Tuesday morning, and then we're just gonna go back
Hmm.
throughout this episode. So let's begin bright and early this morning, as we're recording this on Tuesday. PlayStation blog gets an update with regarding to PlayStation Now, specifically the pricing structure of that service. So PlayStation Now, if you don't know, used to be a streaming only service. You can now stream and or download games that are available on the service if you're subscribed to it. As of today, they are chopping that price pretty significantly.
Yeah.
So it used to be $20 a month, $45 every quarter, or $100 yearly.
Hmm.
As of today, it is $10 a month, $25 a quarter, $60 yearly, which that is much more. I believe that if it's not the same, it's much closer to what Game Pass currently is.
Yeah.
Um, so it brings at least the two services like a little closer. I'll be honest, I would still give Game Pass a pretty significant edge
Yeah.
over PlayStation Now. I think mostly due to probably library, but also the fact that, with Game Pass, you have a promise of every first party game day one. It's there.
Yep.
Now that said, this is I PlayStation Now. We've talked about this a lot in the past. It's kind of been like almost an afterthought. This definitely makes it feel a lot significantly better and more interesting.
Yeah. I'm thankful they're kind of doubling down on it. Like
Yeah.
every month, like right after they announced the PlayStation Plus games, there'd be like, here's what's new on PlayStation Now, like Darksiders War Mastered Edition. Like, it's just like, oh, okay, that's cool, but like, who's really going back and playing Darksiders on PlayStation Now streaming? But then when they finally did do the download stuff, that really was a big boost.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, I think with just Game Pass success, I think I honestly I wasn't seeing a price reduction because eventually the
Mhm.
price is going to have to go back up at some point.
You would think so.
So it's kind of
Um,
weird to see the.
but it's definitely something that's, yeah, I think you get at. It's been on my mind for a while. Is that like naturally, like Game Pass right now is just kind of dominating as
Mm,
far as the like service side of this is concerned. Um, I was thinking actually this, it's weird this is happening now because like within the past week or so, I was thinking about, if you remember the Instant Game Collection,
yeah, the IGC.
the IGC. So with PlayStation Plus, it used to be, if for those who maybe don't remember, when you subscribe to PlayStation Plus, you got access to what they called the Instant Game Collection, which was a selection of like 20 plus odd games
Yeah.
that you just had access to. I mean, it was basically what Game Pass was, and then what PS Now is as well.
I bought a
Um,
Vita because of the
yeah,
Instant Game Collection.
and it was one of those things. It was back in like the time period where people were just like, "Dude, PlayStation Plus is an unbelievable value."
Yeah.
Like that's what kind of sparked it. Because yeah, like it had off the top of my head, it had stuff like Infamous, Little Big Planet. I think Uncharted 2 and 3 at some point.
Yeah.
Um, it was like it was an excellent selection of games. Um, and then that eventually went away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So but I was thinking about that and how like that kind of like probably inevitably kind of helped lead to what Game Pass would become, and then Game Pass becomes like the dominant service. And I was just thinking about, in the next year, we're coming up on about a year away from new consoles, probably. We don't know when they're coming out, but I think we can make a pretty educated guess on when like what time frame it'll be.
Sure.
So the thought I've been having is like, okay, well, Sony obviously they'll want to be competitive. PlayStation Now is clearly like the service they would use to compete, but how are they going to do it? So I think today we're getting a first look at that. So we have the price, so basically dropped in half almost across the board. So that's a good first step. The other thing they're doing is they're introducing what they're calling marquee content. So as of today, through January 2nd of next year, if you subscribe to PlayStation Now, you will be able to stream or download and play the following titles. So Colin, as I name these titles, I want you to give me a rating of 1 to 600.
Okay, you got it.
All right. So God of War.
599.
Great.
U.S. Wait, I'm sorry.
Wait.
Continue.
Hold on, what? Wait, that was unintentional. So anyways, Grand Theft Auto 5.
592.
Okay. Key thing about Grand Theft Auto 5 is you don't have access to some of the online stuff if you are streaming.
591 then.
Okay, great. Infamous Second Son?
Like a 450.
Okay, that's respectable. And then Uncharted 4.
500.
All right. So what do you like? I have thoughts on this. What's your take on this, Colin?
Well, I think those are some good games. I knew stuff like Bloodborne. I think obviously our favorite Knack is on the service already. But yeah, I mean, I think these are good games. Grand Theft Auto, obviously huge. Infamous Second Son, kind of surprised it's not in there already. Uncharted 4 is like the game I always forget exists on PlayStation 4. Like, oh yeah, there was a fourth Uncharted that came out.
That happened and it was excellent. Like,
yeah, and I like the thought of it, but like, what was it like? God of War is now becoming one of the PlayStation hits or whatever that's going to be like $20 like in the next month or something like that. So, if God of War was still like $60, that could have been like, wow, like you can play that $60 game for only $10 a month. I mean, I think it would be cooler if they would have been like, hey, Death Stranding on PlayStation Now, doing the Game Pass thing, where like, hey, this game is launch date on PlayStation Now. I think would have been cooler. But it's a step in the right direction, I guess. I've still never done even the trial for PlayStation Now. So, and again, these games I've kind of already played, so I don't really see myself signing up for it. But I mean, it's a good selection.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, it's definitely a strong like first step forward. But again, and I guess we'll see over the next year like how that might change. But it's like you said, it's hard. I hate saying it and feeling like, oh, I'm asking way too much of them. But at the same time, when the competitor is straight up saying like, yeah, Gears of War 5 is just, it's there.
Yeah.
You have it. Day one.
Sure.
Like Halo Infinite, you'll have it day one. Like, it's pretty hard to compete against that if you're not doing the same or something equally as impressive.
Yeah.
So that's tough, but at the same time, I'm kind of like skimming through the library now, and like there's some great stuff here. Again, I don't see myself subscribing to it at all. I mean, even Game Pass that I have, like, I use it on occasion, and usually that's for a new release game.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting for sure, and it's definitely something that it feels like, again, just like on its own by itself, like, okay, cool. But I think if in the greater context of things, it'll be very interesting to see what the narrative plays out over the next year, when we start learning about the PlayStation 5 and what their like plans are like for 2020, especially from a company that's been so silent this year.
And I feel like something that I would love to see like metrics, but of course Sony probably won't ever release that. Just how many people are playing PlayStation Now on PC?
Yeah,
I think that would be pretty interesting because, like, oh, now you can play God of War on PC, but granted, that's still through streaming only.
sure.
But, if you aren't some kind of pirate or, did it some weird way, or something like that, you have a legit way to play God of War on a PC now. Of course, it won't be with mouse and keyboard. You have to have, like, the DualShock 4 adapter or whatnot. But I think that's cool.
Cool. So, let's then go back to yesterday. I need to... I feel like we owe it to just pull up the tweet.
Yeah, that's true.
So I do apologize for a little bit of a lag here. I meant to have that up earlier. So yesterday afternoon, PlayStation tweeted out, I think to the shock of most people, I feel safe to say, in stating that, that Shawn Layden will be departing Sony Interactive. Sony Interactive Entertainment, SIE.
Yeah.
So here's the tweet. This is from yesterday, I don't know, like middle of the day yesterday. Quote, "It is with great emotion that we announce that Worldwide Studios Chairman Shawn Layden will be departing SIE. His visionary leadership will be greatly missed. We wish him success in future endeavors and are deeply grateful for his years of service. Thanks for everything, Shawn."
It is with great emotion. That's interesting way to phrase that.
It is. Also, I guess for context, Shawn Layden, who is generally pretty active on Twitter, has not posted anything in like a week.
Oh, yeah.
Last tweet was like retweeting Neil Druckmann teasing The Last of Us Part 2 being shown again during State of Play.
So, I mean, I guess I'm just going to ask, was he forced out?
So, that brings us to today. We're coming back to the present. There is an article posted earlier this afternoon by GameDaily.biz with a little bit of like context. There was some stuff from a third-party developer talking kind of more specifically about the PlayStation 5, which we'll get to. But it kind of gives some context and it paints a very specific narrative. I kind of like want to be pretty careful about how we handle this conversation, because part of me, especially yesterday, I mean, me personally, my reaction was like, weird,
yeah,
odd, or surprising. But also I was like, it could be nothing. I don't know. Like, I think about, okay, like a new generation's coming up. Maybe now is just the time. Like maybe now's the perfect time for him to retire or leave or try something else. He's been with the company for something like 30 years or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I didn't want to like look too deep into it, although I think a lot of people definitely were like, weird. I think especially I think it's easy to maybe draw some lines or connect dots when there's just radio silence from him, right?
Yeah, and I want to say when, let's say Jack Tretton stepped down, I think there were quotes from him. When Kaz Hirai stepped down, there were quotes from him like, "Oh, the next generation's gonna lead PlayStation," all that kind of stuff.
Like
and there's just nothing here.
With something like this, you would have more of like a celebration of like they include like I feel so stupid saying stuff like this, and it feels so dumb, but it kind of is like the way of things, like to include like an @ with him in the Twitter and the tweet,
Sure.
and then he like retweets and then favorites and then like responds like, "Oh, I'm gonna miss you guys.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the future." Like just stuff like that, and there's nothing. Like it is just this very like almost unceremonious, just like, he's gone. All right, have fun.
Like, and talk about other people that have left that made the PS4 a success. Like Andrew House had a thing with him saying goodbye. I want to say Adam Boyes had a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we can link to it in the show notes or something. But there is an article from GameDaily.biz, and they get into some kind of like what's being described as internal power struggle, basically between him and Jim Ryan.
Yeah, and there was the PlayStation Asia boss that was stepping down due to age. I saw that.
Yeah, so that was also reported this morning. I'm blanking on his name.
Yeah,
I believe he's the guy that we've seen in a lot of like the Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah.
And those kinds of like press conferences. That he would be the person on stage there, and so he is retiring due to age.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and
no correlation, I would assume.
It sounds like there's no correlation, and one of the reasons why I kind of like didn't initially think too much about this is also just because like this is the start of a new quarter for Japanese companies. It's the start of their second like half of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So the timing makes sense for like departures or changes amongst like leadership. But I guess also it might make sense that if you wanted to force someone out, this would be a time to do it as well.
Yeah.
So, anyways, just some choice quotes here. They were talking about a power struggle. They were talking about how over the past few years, it seems like Jim Ryan, who's kind of more like the Europe side of things, if I understand correctly, and then Shawn Layden, like they would basically like they would be quoted as taking pretty different stances. Whereas Jim Ryan would typically say like and kind of put down the idea of crossplay was one of the things they mentioned. Shawn Layden would come out like earlier this year saying like, oh, I think we could probably reach a like some kind of solution that our fans would be happy with, but we'd also be able to like do good by the business.
Right.
So just things like that that's kind of painting this picture of like maybe they were butting heads, maybe there was some kind of internal struggle between the two of them going on. They also get into so there's that's kind of interesting. I imagine like the way things are now, like if there is something more to this story, I imagine we will find out about it in less than a week.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean, in what way do you think we're gonna find out stuff? Like a Jason Schreier article like, kind of thing,
or I think there were some other journalists I saw on Twitter who were just kind of like, I actually kind of hate that they do this, but I definitely saw some like winking and nodding through tweets from some journalists out there that like kind of seem to imply like, yeah, something's up with this. I'm trying to remember his name. So Greg Miller tweeted out something, and then like, I think it was like someone who used to be at Game Informer. I'm blanking on his name right now. Kind of like responded with like oh, we should talk. And it's like, okay, like write your article, but this seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
But anyways, whatever. So there's that. That's kind of strange. I don't know what to make of it, honestly. And Collin, you bring up an interesting, I guess, point. As we're moving into this generation, and we look back on the PS4 life cycle, it's pretty successful, I think, on the whole for Sony. Shawn Layden probably, I imagine, had a pretty significant role in that. But also, we think about the people that have left. Adam Boyes, Andrew House, others that are not coming to mind at the moment. But I mean, even Jack Tretton, right? Like towards the beginning of this life cycle.
Yeah.
People who probably had a pretty substantial role in making the PS4 as successful as it was, those people are gone now.
Yep.
And so you start to think about like what is the narrative going to be in this first year or the year leading up to the next consoles. You think about this past generation, how it was all Sony, like just dominating everything, Xbox slipping up out the gate, like. And kind of you saw how very quickly the tide kind of changed in Sony's favor. And so you just wonder, like, or I wonder, like, what is it going to be like this time? Xbox seems pretty strong right now. Is Sony floundering? Will they be fine? Is there nothing to worry about? Like, what is it? Like, and there's a lot of new blood, right? Or there will be. People that are going to be introducing the PS5 who... We're not doing that for the PS4, right?
Yeah, We do have Mark Cerny still, though.
We do. That's like the one constant. We can always rely on him and Knack, which is great. So, another interesting quote from this Game Daily article is, I'll just read this, and I'm curious to know if you have any thoughts. So, speaking under the condition of anonymity, Game Daily source, who is a third-party developer, or someone at a position of a major third-party publisher, tells Game Daily, or talks to Game Daily about like kind of things that their company is facing. Quote, "This is the least amount of clarity we've ever had on a new console this close to transition. I believe that the global restructuring is exponentially exacerbating the already difficult process of transitioning to a new generation, and now we're getting nervous. Read, very nervous."
Yeah, this sounds like they can't make up their mind, and it's getting to be go time, and it makes it almost sound like they don't even have finalized dev kits out.
Right, which is, like, not that I don't necessarily believe this, but it's weird and almost at odds with maybe some of the things we were hearing earlier in the year, right? When Sony kind of out of nowhere was like, "Oh yeah, we talked to the Washington Post?" I'm trying to, who was it that they like gave?
That was Wired.
Wired. Okay, I don't know why. God, W's.
Yeah.
So they gave Wired like this, like just out of nowhere, just one morning was like, "Oh yeah, we sat them down with Mark Cerny and showed them the PlayStation 5."
Right.
And so you're right, like you look at that and you think, oh, okay, they're ahead of the game. Like they're preempting any kind of leaks. They're just coming out there and giving us a lot of, like, much more info than we would ever get this early. And then now we have this report saying, oh, they're actually being like way too secretive.
Yeah. And like I just say, made me even think about, like, it's interesting that like Insomniac, maybe, like, did they know that some of the stuff was going on? Did they still feel comfortable to join Sony Interactive Entertainment as a first party if they even knew this power struggle was going on? Like, did one oppose the move? Did one approve for the move? Does that even really matter? Does Insomniac have absolutely nothing to do with? Because I mean, they're all getting thrown into the same first party portfolio. They're all now basically PlayStation employees. I just feel like I feel like they're just gonna stay silent on this and just expect like, nothing happened, and then
just move on.
And I'm sure,
like, all right, this is.
And I'm sure,
the thing, and
Shawn Layden's probably lawyering up, or he can't say anything, and
or maybe he just goes, "Oh, all right, well, like, okay, I'll move on," or like, does he just retire now? I don't know, like, I do want to, like, a strange conversation about a strange event. I don't want to be all doom and gloom though. I do want to say that Shawn Layden, like, at least publicly, whether it was on stage at E3 or in interviews, I felt always presented himself really well. I always thought that he definitely brought a different kind of tone, I guess. I'm struggling to think of the word. His presence at E3 or elsewhere, like, I always really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing him on stage and talking about games, and it definitely felt like there is a passion there that also felt different and unique to him. So I, for one, will miss seeing him on stage at a Sony press conference, whether that's E3 or wherever they decide to hold press conferences from now on.
Yeah, I agree.
If they even do. But I for one will miss having him on stage. I thought he was a pleasure seeing him get out there and kind of make it his own. I know when Jack Tretton stepped down, I think there was some like trepidation about like, oh man, like, who could replace him? Who's this guy?
Yeah.
And I thought, like, first year was kind of awkward, but
he was. I remember that first year.
He stepped into his own and like, or he grew into his own, and I thought he did really well.
Yeah.
Being kind of like the front-facing guy for PlayStation for the few years he was in that role.
Yeah.
So it's a bummer. Hopefully, whoever fills those shoes, or whatever those shoes even are these
Yeah, who
days,
knows?
I hope they are just as entertaining.
Yeah. Who knows what the state of PlayStation is?
Well, who knows? So let's go back to last week.
Yeah.
So we had another state of play. This is the third, I believe.
Yes, the third state of play.
Okay, so it was third time's a charm, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of like hyping up for this one. It felt like, not just from Naughty Dog, but or at least to me, it seemed like people were like, "Yeah, it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah.
This is it."
Yeah.
It was probably fine. It was fine, I guess.
There was only one reason to tune into this, and everything else was just filler.
One thing
kinda.
I enjoyed, yeah, and we can run down most of it. One thing I enjoyed was the teaser they were putting out with all the people running. It was fun, and I really enjoyed that was not what people thought it was.
Yeah, because it originally seemed like it was like the 3D like mock-up of like what all the runner clickers would all run at you, and the scale of The Last of Us Part 2.
I guess, yeah, to describe it, it was a very like minimalist. It was like white background and just like a bunch of minimalist like humanoid shapes just kind of running.
Right.
All of them were running. And it felt like a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, Last of Us 2, this is it. Here we go." Because all the people, they would run and the camera would pan out and they would form like, what was it? The date, I think, of State of Play.
Yeah,
something like that. Turns out that's a new game from called Humanity. It's coming to PS4 and PSVR. It is from I'm blanking on the studio name, but it's from the Res.
Yeah, so it's so that's the thing. When they first showed that, it said Enhance Games.
Yeah.
And I got like, whoa, because I love Tetsuya Mizuguchi.
Yeah.
Who does Rez, he did Tetris Effects, he did Luminous, all that kind of stuff. I got super excited. Then there was this other studio called like Thaw, Tha, with like an apostrophe or an asterisk kind of thing on there. And then, yeah, it's this, I guess it's just summarizing humanity running at each other and having lightsabers and shooting each other and puzzles of... It's weird. It weirdly gave me the style of that game Metrico a little bit. It gave me that kind of vibe with just tons and tons of people now. But I was trying to find some kind of rhythm stuff to it. I don't think there's really any rhythm kind of music stuff to it, which I was kind of disappointed at.
But yeah, either way, like that's I believe that's how they started State of Play. Cool. I love that it was just they were basically showing us the game in a way, and none of us realized what we were actually looking at. Also cool, it's coming from a pretty beloved developer.
Yeah.
For sure. So that's awesome. So that's coming, probably, I would assume, next year at some point.
Yeah.
Also run down some other just quick announcements. Handful of PSVR games were announced. Stardust Odyssey, Gorn Battles, looks like some kind of like gladiator thing.
Yeah, it's been on PC. Gorn has.
I believe most of these have. I believe. After the Fall, and then LA Noire, the VR case files. Came out some time ago.
Yeah, it's like 2 years ago on PC or so.
Yeah, that's all coming to VR. That's cool. Let's see. Civilization 6 is coming to PS4 November 22nd. It's a pretty cool little thing. Showed a new trailer for Modern Warfare. I think that was focused on story, if I remember.
Yeah, it was really the first like shot of single player that we've gotten since like that original trailer. I was kind of disappointed at how just not serious, I guess it was. Like, it was trying to be serious, but it didn't. It seemed like it was a Captain Price show. Like, it would be a thing where, like, so-and-so stars as Captain Price, like, 6-7 Central on ABC. Like, that was the kind of vibe the trailer gave me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously I'll play it. I'll probably enjoy it. But I know that's supposed to be a pretty, maybe controversial campaign at some point, as we've been hearing.
So a couple other things. So they revealed a limited edition Death Stranding PS4 Pro bundle that you'll be able to pick up.
I like the console. I think it's all
Yeah.
right. I hope I can buy that controller separately. I think that controller is kind of cool, but I doubt
Yeah.
it. But maybe.
I think I only just realized. I think there was like a post on Reddit. So the handprint.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the one on the console or not, but there's like one of the handprints. Like within the palm of the hand, you can see like the continents of the U.S.
Oh, okay.
Or not the U.S., but it's like it's North America, and then I think South America you can see as well.
You know what I thought you were gonna say? I thought you were gonna say that handprint is actually an outline of Hideo Kojima's hand. I was like, oh wow. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, that actually,
Yeah,
which is
hope.
weird. If you ever notice, Hideo Kojima's hands oddly look like two continents put together. It's
Exactly.
strange. Yeah. So, and then Wadham, you remember that?
Watam, I think they
Watam.
even said. I don't know.
Watam.
Yeah, it's man, it's been a while.
So this is from correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Keita Takahashi?
You might be right.
Maybe?
I remember
so he's known for Katamari.
Yeah.
So this was man, how like
this has got to be like 2014.
Was this the first PlayStation experience when this was announced?
It could have been. Yeah, that would have been 2014.
I think it is. So yeah, we got like a reveal trailer, announcement trailer for this a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's been basically silent for I think a couple years now at least.
Yeah.
Unless I'm like missing something. But it's been re-revealed. I guess you can say we got a new trailer. Definitely shows a lot more stuff going on. I think it does a pretty good job, I think, of making it pretty clear like what the goal of the game is at least. Still looks very bizarre. I'm super into it. Colin, I was prepared for the shadow drop with this.
I was too. I was thinking like they're gonna drop it right now.
I really thought it was gonna happen. Instead, it is coming out in December. No date attached.
Hope it hits it.
I hope so too. I definitely feel a bit of a disappointment with this. Because like I've been down and ready for this game from day one. Like I'm ready to go on it. And then like we didn't hear anything about it, so I kind of like forgot about it for a while. But I do feel like in these cases, if you're gonna bring something back, like you should at least have a date. Like,
I agree.
It's weird to like come out and be like, oh, it's out this month, and it's like, all right, well, that's not far away. Do you have anything more?
Yeah.
It feels weird.
Yeah, has it? And it was an Annapurna game. I don't know if it had always been Annapurna published that I saw.
I don't know that it has either. But also Annapurna, basically anything they touch is gold. So great.
You've said that before, and I kind of agree.
Yeah, they're kind of killing it. What else before we get to the big stuff? So Medieval PS4. I think it showed a new trailer for that, and also they did shadow drop the demo for Medieval. What they have a name for it. It's
short-lived demo.
Short-lived demo.
I played it yesterday.
Okay, so I played it over the weekend.
Yeah, it's fine. I think the camera sucks.
The camera's god awful.
It's awful.
It's really bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah, so it's basically the opening of the game, like the first stage.
Mm-hmm.
Which is about the extent that I played of the PS1 version several years ago when I got it for free on PS3 through PlayStation Plus at some point. And, it kind of feels like the PS1 version.
Yeah, which I guess maybe is a good, bad thing. I don't know.
I think it actually, the trailers that we've seen thus far, like, it didn't do a whole lot to really impress me. Actually playing it in person, I think visually, like, I don't know what you thought of it, but I think visually it actually looks really good.
Yeah, I'd say I'd agree with that. I thought visually looked good.
But camera for sure was rough. I did adjust. Like I think it defaults to inverted, and so I
Yes,
did change that.
yes, I was playing with that too.
I changed that and it made it a little bit better. And the more I played, the more I kind of was like, you know what, this doesn't seem that challenging. You know, again, it's the first level, but this seems okay enough that I could maybe see myself playing through it. It's probably not that long.
Yeah, probably not too bad.
But then I just thought more about it and I was like, I don't know. There's already so much else that I have just in the backlog. Like, I don't, like, I think the only way I actually end up either renting or getting this and playing through it is if the Halloween bug has bit me too hard. And I just like, if I'm just like, there's nothing else out there and I really need to play something that's like just really in the spirit.
Right.
Like if I finish Luigi's Mansion 3, oh my god. Or I mean, that's coming out on Halloween.
Yeah, the day of. Yeah.
And then and I don't remember, Medieval I think is a little bit before.
It's like 20. Yeah, because I want to say it was like really close to Modern Warfare.
If I'm sitting there like 5 days before Halloween and I'm like, I have to. Like, I feel like that's the only way I'm getting this game after that demo.
Did you get Sir Dan's helmet?
Yeah.
So it's actually
walk me through what happens.
Okay, so this is
weird.
This is my understanding how this works. It said play the demo and get Sir Dan's helmet in the full game. So when you first take control of Dan, you see this collectible in the back, and I ran to it and picked it up, which it was like, oh, it's Sir Dan's helmet. It opens the PlayStation Store, and then I think you just click the download button to then get Sir Dan's helmet on your PlayStation account. Yeah. And so it's just registered to your account, and then you can download it later when the full game comes out. Or that was my understanding.
Or maybe it's just like it's a small file that's now downloaded, and when you
play
the full game, now you have it.
Yeah.
It was so bizarre.
Yeah, it was weird.
Very strange.
And even how the trailer ended, or not trailer, but the demo ended. Like I got right to this part. I was like, oh, I wonder how much longer they'll let me play. And then I just walked forward, and then it was just like, thanks for playing. It was like, it felt like the build they probably had at Comic-Con or something like that.
Colin, you could say it was short-lived.
You could say that.
Yeah.
Took me maybe 15 minutes to beat or something like that. But
yeah. I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, and that's probably all needed.
Kind of a bummer, you know, like I don't know, like I could see the full game turning out just being like, yeah, this was fine. It's totally coming out at the right time, and again, I could maybe if I'm sitting there a few days before Halloween and just really itching for something like in the season. But I don't know. I think I'll probably be preoccupied with like the Borderlands 3 is getting like a free Halloween kind of themed update.
Right.
Luigi's Mansion 3 is going to be great. Like, I think I might be set. I don't know.
Yeah, and then obviously the shadow drop of Costume Quest 3 obviously is coming out.
Oh. All right, so moving on. They had two last things. So first, they just went ahead and announced the October lineup for PlayStation Plus, which consists of MLB The Show. It's kind of cool. Like, and then The Last of Us Remastered.
Yeah.
Which obviously leads into the last thing that they had, which was a brand new trailer for The Last of Us Part 2. And a release date of February 21st, 2020.
That's soon, Curtis.
That is very soon.
I did not know it was going to be so close to Death Stranding.
Also, it's like within a week and a half, within a 2-week time period, we will be playing The Last of Us Part 2 and Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, I was surprised that Last of Us Part 2 is coming out before Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's a surprise.
Makes you wonder about Ghost of Tsushima. But anyways, so Colin, reactions to this new trailer that we get. Thoughts?
So probably a lot of my thoughts on the trailer are probably also based on what some of the media got hands-on with as well. Mm-hmm. We see the older Ellie. I think she's 19 now. This takes place 5 years after the end of the first game. we see her kind of having this relationship with another gal. She was the gal that Ellie kissed at the end of the E3 2018 demo,
Yeah.
I want to say. And something happens to her, which it makes it look like she dies.
Do we know if it's so like okay?
Yeah, we don't know
it's like,
that.
Obviously,
but
it's like a
implied.
200% chance it'll be something happening to her, but they've been very cagey.
I think
the way
something
they
else is going to
phrase it.
happen. I think something
Yeah.
else is going to, because they're not confirming that, oh yeah, this person dies. But
They're
it
basically
seems,
like, hey, something happens. Like,
yeah.
like,
And it sounds like, from what we can infer, that gal dies, and then this forces Ellie to just
Right.
be on her rage, hate-filled rampage, killing. It's something like the Washington containment something, like, because they're up in Seattle, something like that. But then, of course, we do at the very end, we get the reveal of Joel is back.
yeah.
Which we first saw him at the very first reveal trailer. We didn't see him in person, but we heard Troy Baker's voice. Everybody was thinking, oh, is Joel a ghost? I think we can now say that Joel is not a ghost now.
Then definitely not
I'm excited.
A ghost.
Yeah, definitely not a ghost. I think he's real. Yeah. Yeah, I just think it looks great. I mean, it had, that trailer had everything in it. Just ready.
Yeah, man. It's like the line from Joel at the end of that trailer. The like, you really think I'm gonna let you do this alone? Like, yeah, man. Yeah, just yes. I'm ready.
You know what my favorite meme is recently, or not meme, but like just thing on the internet was, I think Neil Druckmann retweeted it also, but it's Ellie. It's like, you really think I'd let you go through with this? And then it's the picture of like the goose from Untitled Goose Game with just a knife holding in his mouth.
That is like, I have
It's
not
really
bought
funny.
or played that game yet, but that is like all I'm thinking about
Yeah,
recently.
it's really
It's just
funny.
that game. I need to. I need to play that game. It looks really, really funny and really and fun, actually. So The Last of Us, yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, like, story wise, it definitely feel like, part of me is like, oh no, it really is just what it looks like. That girl's going to die and it's gonna get dark. But then part of me is like, I don't know, man. Are they setting us up on something?
I think so.
Like, what? Like, just throwing this out here. Just throwing this out here. Is it Joel? Is it Joel who dies? Or do we play as Ellie for 3 hours and then she's out of the picture? And then suddenly we're playing as the girl, like, for the rest of the, like, I feel bad. I don't remember her name.
I know. I forgot her name too.
I want to believe that, like, they're leading us on a wild goose chase, you might say. I want to believe that they're like setting us up to surprise us, like, towards the beginning of this game with something that we're not expecting. I think about the opening to the first Last of Us.
Yeah.
That's something I could be wrong. I don't think they talked about it at all. I don't
Yeah,
think there
I
was
don't think that.
even a hint that was what the opening was going to be.
Yeah, I don't think so at all.
And so I'm hoping for something like that. I want to be surprised. I want. I still to this day think about and get very, like, passionately excited about the story and characters in The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really hoping that part 2, like, has a similar impact on me.
Well, so have you watched any preview stuff from anybody?
Yes. So I've watched, like, the Easy Ally stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched
Or
that.
mostly, like, listened. I did watch, like, I watched some of the gameplay, but
Sure.
like, not too much.
Well, it sounds like
what I've
go.
seen and heard, I'm excited.
Yeah, but it sounds like the beginning of the game is, when it's inferred that the other gal dies, and then it seems like the game picks up later than when Joel shows up.
Yeah.
Because the second part of the demo, they said, actually ends when Joel shows up.
Okay.
So that makes me think that, like, I assume Joel is still alive, Ellie is still alive.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because then, like, because they show Tommy, who's Joel's brother,
Yeah.
is in the trailer, but it sounds like that's after whatever happened. Yeah, and it's like, who else could it be? I mean, there's only so many characters that are left in The Last
That's
of
the
Us.
thing, right? And I think even with like the stuff that they showed at E3 of 2018, like it definitely felt like that's what they were getting at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they introduced us to this girl, we get a hint at some kind of romantic relationship there. I just feel like I'm not gonna come out here and say like Naughty Dog is like the best storytellers in video games, because I don't think they are. Yoko Taro would have a few words to say, but I do feel like the way that they tell their stories and the way their characters are portrayed, like they're top of the game right now. It feels
I would say the best character development. I would say
Sure.
probably storytellers. I would probably say, yeah, I would say maybe they're not the best, but
no.
I think just character.
They're capable. They're
growth.
capable of making like just really amazing, like developing some really incredible characters, and obviously they have some really great actors that are helping kind of carry these roles.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, so there's a quote from Neil Druckmann years ago talking about if the first game, if the theme was like love, this part 2 is the theme is hate, right?
Yeah.
But I do think about what was it, Last of Us Left Behind,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And I think about like, are we really gonna have Ellie lose another like love interest? Like,
Yeah, that's true.
Is that the road we're about to go down?
Right.
Because I'm more than comfortable with like a game going real dark. Like I'm more than comfortable with this game getting like pretty depressing.
Yeah.
But I just like, is it too much? Can she catch a break? Maybe not. It certainly seems like that might not be the case, but I just wonder if they're gonna do that again, right? Like I wonder if they're gonna like hit that same note again, or again if they're just.
I think they're playing.
If we're gonna be
expectations
surprised
right now, I think they're playing
Yeah.
expectations.
Yeah.
And I mean, it sounds like, so other things to talk about, I guess, with this is one thing to also bring up. I don't know the exact tweet. I don't know if I need to bring it up. But The Last of Us Part 2 will not have multiplayer.
Yeah.
But they had a quote coming out saying that we hope you experience the fruits of our labor or something
Yeah.
like that very soon.
They
in
definitely
regards to
tease
multiplayer.
like, hey, we are doing something though.
Yeah, I would love something. Yeah, I would assume it would be something standalone.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know. It definitely caught my eye, but I don't know what to make of it just yet.
Yeah, and
sure.
I don't know if I don't know if I'm disappointed or not. Like, I really liked The Last of Us multiplayer, but obviously it's not the reason I wanted to play The Last of Us. So I'm okay with it not having it in there.
I am as well.
Yeah.
But I also totally get that. Like, I know for a fact that I heard from at least a half dozen people, like, that they really enjoyed it and they really got into it. And so I could totally understand, like, if there's disappointment there.
Yeah.
But I know that I think it's probably a safe bet the majority of people looking forward to this game are going to be pretty excited to play the campaign and see what happens to Ellie and Joel and any of these other new characters. Now gameplay wise, like, a lot of it looks pretty standard Last of Us stuff. They were talking about how it's their biggest and longest game yet.
Yeah, they're most ambitious. It seems like everybody says that though, but
yeah, so I take more, for me the thing that stands out more is like that it's their longest, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, that's measurable. That's something that means at least a little bit more to me. So that's interesting. I don't know, if I think one way or the other on that. It's just like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
There's dogs now.
They can sniff you.
They can sniff you. You don't have to hurt the dogs, so that's cool.
You can go prone. We saw
Yeah.
that kind of in that gameplay demo last E3, but
They had a big focus. I was watching the like behind the scenes of the demo
yeah,
video they put out. which I guess I would recommend watching. At least it's pretty short. I skipped like a little bit in the middle when they were talking about the story setup for the demo they showed.
Mm-hmm.
So I skipped some of that stuff, but there's some interesting things in there and good bits of gameplay. But one of the things they were like talking about was this idea of being able to very quickly like shimmy through tight spaces,
Right.
and how that like informed their level design, which I like. At first, I was like, okay, but you know, I've done that in a lot of video games.
Mm-hmm.
But then I guess I like the more I thought about it and the more I saw it in practice, like in the video, it kind of like I think I kind of got where they were going at, where it was like, oh, okay, like the way it's typically it's used to like mask loading when you're like
Yeah.
squeezing through tight corridors. This was actually part of just like the levels, and it was a way to avoid maybe clickers or other enemies. So like I could kind of see where that like might be kind of interesting. I don't really know though.
Yeah, it makes it more dynamic. And I
Yeah.
want to say even like I felt like the first Last of Us did something like that, but maybe it didn't. It where it seems like if you play Uncharted, it's like, oh well, here's obviously the way I need to go. I need to scoot through this area and just keep holding forward while Nathan Drake moves. But it's like kind of those things where you're like, oh well, obviously my hitbox is only this big and I can't fit through here, but oh, there's like a specific animation that plays that Ellie can scoot by here, like in this whole big open area that has all these different things in it. I think that's the kind of stuff that makes the great games,
Right.
outstanding, generation defining, whatever kind of games.
It's it's stuff like that, and it's also being able to like having a huge open world where you can just stop and use the bathroom. Death Stranding. So, anyways,
It's like for some reason I'm like God of War or what game was this? Oh
like,
right. Wait, what game was this? Oh right, yeah. Is Jeff Keighley in The Last of Us Part 2?
Nothing confirmed yet.
I guess not.
A couple other things that stood out to me. One, they mentioned how every enemy NPC has a name.
Yeah.
So they talked about like if you might be like maybe you might be like sneaking around and maybe you like take out one guy and you'll hear his friend go, "Oh, Jimmy," or something like that.
I love that.
Which like I'm like, okay, that's cool, but one of the things that it means to me, or potentially I think, is it means that there's like a finite number of enemies. In theory,
that's true.
at least. I mean, I guess they could have just recorded a ton of voice lines for different names.
How many Ricks am I gonna have to kill?
But I guess to me at least the way I interpreted was like in theory that means that you won't necessarily like be in a firefight where just like a ton of people keep running out.
Right.
But rather there will be a focus on like there are 6 people here. You take out those 6 people, you're good, or you can sneak by them. I don't care.
Yeah.
As long as you don't do anything to Johnny's dog, it's fine.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, they talked about the dog and what happens if you kill the owner and what happens to the dog, and if you kill the dog, what happens to the owner.
So like again,
so
we talk about like what makes good games great, like that kind of stuff. It's super it seems minor, seems like I could see some people being like, okay, whatever. But again, we're talking about world building, and I think that's also something that Naughty Dog excels at, especially with The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Is world building and making this place feel lived in and more believable. And that's like another thing I'm definitely looking for out of this, and it feels like they're moving in that direction to continue growing this world that they've built out in the first game and then continue it in part 2.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm media blackout yet, but I'm sure I might actually have to, because the only other trailer we might get is actually a launch trailer. That might be the next trailer we get.
That's the thing. Yeah, we're close enough, that.
Yeah,
it feels like it might as well.
I don't feel like I understand how close February 21st is. I feel like I don't really realize that.
It is I mean, it's less than 5 months, which makes it feel farther out, but it's close. Like, it's not that far away. I mean, Death Stranding is like a month away. Think about that.
Yo, I know. Man. And even like Doom Eternal and all
Yeah.
that. So I have a question. Am I going to be playing as Ellie at some point in The Last of Us Part 2? And am I going to go find some secret area? And am I going to pick up a Crash Bandicoot doll at some point in this game? Or a Wumpa fruit?
I think you'll absolutely pick up a character.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be Crash Bandicoot. I think you will absolutely pick up a stuffed character from a Sony video game.
It's just going to be like a Daxter plushie, and then Ellie's going to be like, oh, this was so cute.
Is it Ratchet?
Maybe it's going to be like
do you pick up a Clank?
It's going to be like a Bethesda game where there's Aloys in there.
Ellie's bedroom.
And
it's posters.
Aloy and Kratos and the car from GT Sport and I don't know. And Delson. Oh yeah. I'd be interested. I don't know. I mean, I think about that. Like, I think about all those different environments, and I'm like, oh man, there's gonna be so many collectibles in this area. Mm-hmm. That's like where my mind goes. But...
So I guess to close, and we can start wrapping up. Last of Us Part 2. As with the first game, I mentioned before, I still think about it sometimes. Like even recently,
yeah.
I was at a friend's and we got to talking about video games, and The Last of Us came up, and we both just proceeded to gush over that game, particularly the ending in the last hour of that game.
Oh, and man, how I could go on and on about
and
that
how powerful it was, and still is. So my question to you is Ellie the only playable character in this game?
I'm gonna say yes. I feel like I want to say no, but I think I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Colin, I was just wondering, like, or part of me wonders is if it's too far, like, too much fan service to, like, have that moment where, like, Ellie gets knocked out, she goes down for, like, 5 minutes game time, and the camera pans over, and suddenly the camera's behind Joel. And then for that next sequence, like, you're just playing as Joel, protecting her. Or something. Like, is that, like, I feel like that could be a moment where people just start freaking out in excitement.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's that moment even in the original game where you play as Ellie for a little bit when Joel gets injured. Yeah. I think that's absolutely. I would almost think would be crazy is if you start the game as Joel. If like you actually start as him. I think that would be pretty cool. Because like they, even in other trailers, like they talk like, hey, Joel's still around.
And I guess
stuff like that. It's not like he's just completely absent.
And we should wrap up, but there was one other thing that did come to mind. So we got the first announcement trailer. And it's, Ellie, she's singing the song and
on the guitar.
And so it was very brief. But if I remember correctly, the next time that we get any Last of Us related footage, it is of a scene of some completely just brand new characters. One of which I do believe we ended up seeing in the E3 footage, if I remember correctly. But I think it actually...
And it's the Laura Bailey character, I think.
There is her, but there's a guy who I think we saw in the E3 footage. But nonetheless, I don't think we still even know who those people are.
I completely forget. Yeah, because it was the girl that was like, the car was on fire and it's like clip her wings.
Well, it was the footage that when we saw it, it definitely caused a bit of a stir because people were like, oh my god, this is very violent.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've been thinking about this past week and just wondering, like, we still don't know anything about that.
I bet one of those characters is probably also a playable character. Yeah. I would assume. You know what? I'm gonna say that. I bet you play as one of those characters. I completely forgot about that scene.
I think you might be right.
Man.
Well, anyways, we'll have plenty of chance to talk about The Last of Us Part 2 when it comes out in just a few short months. Colin, thank you for joining me on this kind of shorter
you,
episode
Curtis.
endeavor of the Collin and Curtis in the morning. Or wait, what, do we still do the in the morning tag?
We can do, yeah. I was gonna just do in the
Fine.
morning. It's a PlayStation podcast.
We'll post it at 7
bring
p.m.
it back.
It's great.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining
It's
me.
5
though.
o'clock somewhere. What?
Yeah. So that was fun. We'll be back, in another time. Perhaps in another island to talk about, I don't know, Link's Awakening or something of the sort.